Good morning. I'll invite the Honorable Minister responsible for education to say prayers today.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee so to direct and prosper the deliberations of the Legislative Assembly now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honour, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the Governor of our islands, the Premier, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, the Leader of the Opposition, Ministers of Cabinet, ex officio members, and members of the Legislative Assembly, that we may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of our high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated.
Administration of oaths and affirmations. Oath of allegiance and due execution by Ms. Jacqueline Wilson, the Honourable Acting Attorney General, ex officio member responsible for legal affairs, to be the temporary ex officio member of the Legislative Assembly.
I'll invite Ms. Wilson to approach the dais. All rise.
I, Jacqueline Wilson, do swear that I will well and truly serve Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, the heirs and successors, and the people of the Cayman Islands in the office of ex officio member of the Legislative Assembly. So help me God. I, Jacqueline Wilson, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, the heirs and successors according to law. So help me God.
Before inviting Ms. Wilson to take her seat and welcome her once again in this honourable house, I'd like also, on behalf of all honourable members, to congratulate you on your recent receipt of Queen's Counsel. And as you continue to defend and protect the jurisdiction, we have ever confidence that you'll continue to do as hitherto before. Please take your seat. Please be seated.
Reading by the Honourable Speaker of messages and announcements.
None.
Presentation of petitions.
None.
Presentation of papers and of reports. Annual report, the Mental Health Commission 2016, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier, Minister of Home Affairs, Health and Culture.
I recognize the Honourable Premier for the laying of the annual report for the Mental Health Commission 2016.
Madam Speaker, may I crave your indulgence? I don't have a copy of the... There we go. Thank you. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report of the Mental Health Commission for 2016.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Premier wish to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in accordance with Section 8A of the Mental Health Commission Law 2013, I am pleased today to place before this Honourable House the annual report of the Mental Health Commission for the calendar year 2016. The Mental Health Commission was established in 2014 under the Mental Health Commission Law 2013. The members of the Commission who served in 2016 are as follows: Dr. Mark Lockhart, Chair; Dr. Taylor Burrows, Deputy Chair; Mr. Oliver Watler, Deputy Chair; Julian Banks, Member; Kimberly Bowden, Member; Faylene Ebanks-Saku, Member; Pastor Dale Forbes, Member; Dr. Inoka Richens, Member; Vanessa Gilman, Member. The members of the Mental Health Commission are stakeholders from various sectors representing legal, healthcare practitioners with training in mental health, and advocates, laypersons. Madam Speaker, the functions of the Commission are divided into three sections: quasi-judicial, to hear and determine appeals under various sections of the law, and conduct reviews where a patient has been detained and released under an emergency detention order 3 or more times in 30 days. Recommendations to the Health Practice Commission and councils. This includes submitting an annual report to the Minister with responsibility for health, reviewing and advising on scopes of practice and codes of ethics for practitioners, providing policy advice to the relevant registering councils and advising the Health Practice Commission regarding mental health facilities, medical research and clinical trials in mental health. 3 general functions, including the following: obtaining and compiling statistics on mental health, overseeing and delivering mental health training for constables, prison officers, and any other persons expected to deal with mental health patients in the performance of their functions, approving a list of overseas mental health facilities, researching and establishing protocols and guidelines for mental health advocacy, and approving persons to act as advocates, establishing and maintaining a program which provides information to the general public concerning mental illness and co-occurring disorders and related conditions, reviewing the progress of patients transferred overseas, reviewing every 6 months the progress of remand prisoners deemed unfit to plead, and submitting the information to the Chief Officer, Judicial Administration, giving policy advice to the Minister responsible for health on any aspect of local mental health system. Madam Speaker, with respect to the contents of the report, mental health services are delivered through the Health Services Authority, local private facilities, and mental health care facilities located overseas. The Behavioral Health and Psychiatric Unit, formerly known as the Mental Health Unit, at the Health Services Authority is an 8-bed unit that was designed as an adult facility for acute care of patients suffering from serious mental illnesses. There's also a facility providing treatment for patients suffering from alcohol and substance abuse, while Her Majesty's Cayman Islands Prison Service accommodates mentally ill persons who have been incarcerated. There is no inpatient facility for children and adolescents, but if necessary, they are admitted to the unit where they are treated. Madam Speaker, as stated in the first report of the Mental Health Commission, there is an adequate number of mental health practitioners employed in public and private sectors. The distribution of practitioners, however, among the 3 islands is disproportionate, as there is no psychiatrist, psychologist, or occupational therapist present on the sister islands. Madam Speaker, we are committed to improving our outpatient services so that the care that is needed is accessible in a timely manner to all. As you may be aware, Madam Speaker, in February 2015, Cabinet granted approval of the policy guidance for the development of a long-term residential mental health facility. This document outlines the broad policy direction to be followed by the steering committee, which was charged with the procurement process for the development of the facility. Subsequently, the strategic outline case was finalized and an RFP was advertised. The successful bidder was KPMG, which was awarded the contract in October 2015 to prepare an outline business case for a proposed long-term residential mental health facility. The final report from KPMG on the proposed development of the facility was approved by Cabinet in May 2016. The key findings of the report were as follows. There is a need for the Cayman Islands government to build a long-term residential mental health facility, which will require ongoing financing from the government. The proposed facility will be part of a continuum of mental health care services available to residents, thereby reducing some of the burden of the inpatient unit designed for acute care. Madam Speaker, the latest update on the long-term residential mental health facility is that a site has been identified, and we will soon be awarding the contract for the design and construction cost consultancy phase of this important project. Madam Speaker, training on the mental health legislation and increasing mental health awareness amongst our community continue to be a focus of the Commission. Last year, the Mental Health Commission conducted 6 sessions to the RCIPS middle managers and new recruits, the staff of 911, and sessions for a diverse audience consisting of participants from judiciary, education, social services, crisis center, fire services, and staff of the Accident and Emergency Department of the Health Services Authority. Madam Speaker, training sessions will continue in 2017. Madam Speaker, it is a requirement under the Mental Health Law 2013 for all detention forms to be sent to the Secretary of the Mental Health Commission for storage and filing. The forms are reviewed by the Secretary to determine whether the members of the Mental Health Commission need to be notified of any outstanding issues or observations. For the year 2016, there were 32 patients admitted for various types and degrees of mental illness, a decrease of 11 from 2015. The number of detention forms received was 50, a decrease of 25 for the same period in 2015. Madam Speaker, it is safe to say that with the introduction of the Assisted Outpatient Treatment Order form and the return of full-time coverage of community psychiatric nurses for Grand Cayman, the chronically ill patients are better controlled in the absence of a long-term residential facility. During this period, no request for an appeal was received by the Commission. Madam Speaker, in October 2016, the Human Rights Commission, in partnership with the Mental Health Commission, prepared a booklet titled Human Rights Essentials, a guide for mental health practitioners in the Cayman Islands. Copies of the booklet were distributed to the RCIPS, Behavioral Health and Psychiatric Unit, and the Accident and Emergency Department at the HSA. There was a delay, Madam Speaker, in the finalization of the 5-year mental health policy for the Cayman Islands. However, the Ministry is on target to have the policy finalized and to seek approval from Cabinet by the end of the first quarter of this year. Madam Speaker, the policy has identified 7 areas for action, which are as follows: protection of human rights, mental health promotion and education, prevention of mental illness, access to mental health services, information for decision-making and data gathering, intersectoral collaboration, and capacity building. Other work of the MHC, the Mental Health Commission, during 2016 involved participation in World Mental Health Day activities celebrated on the 10th of October each year, as well as participating in a seminar hosted by the Health Services Authority Ethics Committee focusing on youth mental health. In 2016, members of the MHC toured the newly opened custody suites and met with the Deputy Commissioner of Police to apprise him of the role of the RCIPS under the Mental Health Law 2013. In addition, several organizations of the community, such as Caring Hands, the Crisis Center, and the Alzheimer's and Dementia Association, were invited to present at the monthly meetings. The Mental Health Commission met with the Department of Vehicle and Driver's Licensing to make recommendations regarding the wording on the reverse side of the driver's license, and the Supervisor of Elections to propose appropriate wording to amend the elections law to allow for the Mental Health Commission to be the responsible body to submit to the Supervisor of Elections a list of persons who have been certified as having a mental impairment or a serious mental illness. Madam Speaker, the Mental Health Commission has commenced its 4th year of operation, and many of the members who were appointed in the beginning are still serving today. I would like to thank those members who continue to serve the community and to raise the importance of mental health at every stage of life, and to congratulate those persons who have been recently appointed by Cabinet for stepping up to assist with the work of the Commission. Mental health, like physical health, matters to you, me, and everyone else in this Assembly. Madam Speaker, in order to mitigate many of the problems in our society that we currently face, I believe we must facilitate early recognition and treatment of common mental illnesses by enhancing access to mental health care through an integrated approach. The MHC will continue to educate, inform, and empower those individuals who require our assistance. Madam Speaker, we have a Mental Health Commission that is committed and has been working diligently since its formation, and the Mental Health Commission continues to advocate and promote mental wellness for all in the community. Madam Speaker, in closing, I would like to thank the Ministry of Health and Culture's Chief Officer and staff and the members of the Mental Health Commission for their hard work, dedication, and commitment to a subject that affects all of us. Indeed, as President Bill Clinton said, mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of, but stigma and bias shame us all. Let us continue to do our part. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Annual Report FY 2015-16, Ministry of Home Affairs, Cayman Islands Government. To be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier, Minister of Home Affairs, Health and Culture.
Honorable Premier. Sergeant.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this honourable House the annual report for the Ministry of Home Affairs for the year 2015 to 2016.
So ordered. Does Honorable Premier wish to speak further to the report?
No, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Government of the Cayman Islands, Ministry of Home Affairs Annual Financial Statements for the year ending 30th of June 2016, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Premier, Minister of Home Affairs, Health and Culture.
Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this honourable House the annual financial statements for the Ministry of Home Affairs for the year ended 30th of June 2016.
So ordered. Does Honorable Premier wish to expound further?
No, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Cayman Islands Older Person Policy 2016 to 2035, Advancement, the Well-being of Older Persons, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports.
I recognize Honorable Minister responsible for Community Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I begged to lay on the table of this Honourable House the Cayman Islands Older Persons Policy 2016 to 2035, which was approved by Cabinet on the 21st of October 2016.
So ordered. Does the Honorable Minister wish to speak further to his report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the government in its 2015-16 and 2016-17 strategic policy statement under Broad Outcome 12, Equity and Justice that values the contribution of all, promised the people the development of a national policy for the older persons. As the Minister responsible for Community Affairs, I am pleased to announce that we have delivered on this promise. The Cayman Islands Older Persons Policy 2017 to 2036, advancing the well-being of the older persons, was developed to advance the rights of older persons 65 years and older. This policy supports the Cayman Islands Constitution Order 2009 Bill of Rights, Freedom and Responsibilities, which establishes that all citizens have the right to life, personal liberty, private and family life, conscience and religion, freedom of expression, peaceful assembly and association, free movement, and non-discrimination. Furthermore, it upholds the United Nations principles on the rights of older persons, which advocates for older persons to live independent, dignified, and self-fulfilled lives. In December 2015, a steering committee was appointed to advise the Ministry of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports on all matters relating to the development of a national older persons policy for the Cayman Islands for a 20-year period, 2016-2035. For Cabinet's consideration, the steering committee comprised of all key stakeholders and, most importantly, older persons. The drafting process for this policy incorporated a comprehensive approach to policy, including components of policy genesis, development, implementation, monitoring, review, evaluation, and change. A strategic vision was developed and subcommittees were identified to work on various components of the draft policy based on terms of reference, goals, strategies, and strategic aims. The committee was guided by previous documentation and research on the status of older persons in the Cayman Islands between the period of 2000 to 2015 and other existing data and Cayman Islands policies which comprise a component of the welfare of older persons or have synchronicity. I can't get that one out. Synchronicity with elements of care of older persons. Got tongue twisted on that one, I apologize. The United Nations Declaration of the Principles of Older Persons, the Cayman Islands Constitution, and regional policies on the care and welfare of older persons. During the period of June to September 2016, the steering committee conducted stakeholder workshops, district focus groups, and reviewed the draft policy in consultation with the key stakeholders in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac. Madam Speakers and members of this Honorable House, I would like to draw to your attention to the table of contents of the policy on page 2, which outlines clearly the major headings. I will now briefly touch on each of these. The introduction section of the policy is found on pages 4 to 12 and outlines the purpose, vision, core values, enabling and supporting documents, specific and broad benefits, and key definitions. It must be noted that given the context within our local jurisdiction and the recent amendments to the retirement age by the Public Service Management Amendment Law 2016 and Personnel Amendment Regulation 2016 and the National Pension Amendment Bill 2016, older persons in the Cayman Islands will now be recognized as persons who are 65 and older. The highlighted core values of this policy speaks to our belief that older persons are vital resources who should be valued, respected, and empowered to live secure and fulfilling lives with dignity and freedom of choice. In addition, the community, public, private, and civil society has a shared responsibility in achieving the advancement of the well-being of older persons in the Cayman Islands. The goals and strategies of the policy are covered on pages 17 to 29. In conducting local research and hosting meetings with key stakeholders, there were identified gaps and challenges impacting older persons in our society. For example, Madam Speaker, lack of lifelong education and training on aging and healthy and active aging, issues of violence and other crimes committed against older persons. Family and social support were not being maintained to enhance the quality of lives of older persons. Physical and social isolation of older persons as they experience loneliness, loss of family and friends, loss of social status and loss of control of their finances, lack of public transportation to accommodate their need to remain mobile in their districts and throughout the islands. Therefore, within each of the identified policy goals, strategies, and strategic aims, it is hoped and expected that older persons will benefit from the following. Goal 1, focus on addressing and promoting independence and autonomy of older persons in their districts and communities while having access to adequate food, water, shelter, clothing, family, and community support. Goal 2, the focus is to enhance levels of advocacy for older persons to remain integrated in society while participating actively in the formulation and implementation of policy affecting their well-being. Goal 3, the aim is to advocate for older persons to benefit from family and community care and protection, to have access to health care, social and legal services, to enhance their autonomy and their basic human rights while residing in an emergency shelter, care, or treatment facility, as well as in their private homes. Goal 4, focus on promoting the need for older persons to pursue opportunities for achieving their full potential while accessing educational, cultural, spiritual, and recreational resources, and to conduct community needs assessment and identify the barriers hindering older persons accessing services in the community. Goal 5 hopes to achieve the protection and security and dignity of older persons by addressing the financial, physical, and social needs of older persons. It also aims to address abuse and equitable treatment of them. Madam Speaker, the process of policy implementation provides an opportunity for a guided map toward the development of a proactive rather than reactive response to the identified goals, strategies, and strategic aims of this policy. An implementation planning task force was identified to develop implementation planning and will ensure a seamless transition from the approved policy to the development of implementation plans to affect the policy. Some of the key benefits of developing an implementation plan to support the policy includes developing measurable objectives to support the strategies and strategic aims, increasing clarity of responsibilities by setting stakeholders' expectations and providing opportunities for all concerned parties to be on the same page regarding implementation. Increased levels of accountability in the management and provision of services to older persons. Show how private sector and civil society can contribute, which reduces the need for government resource allocations, and develop a frame of reference for budgets and short-range operating plans, which will lead to prioritizing actions coming out of the policy, short, medium, one-time, periodic, or continuous timeliness and costing. Madam Speaker, the Implementation Task Force is being chaired by the Policy Coordination Unit in the Cabinet Office, and the members appointed to serve on the Implementation Planning Task Force includes representation from the Ministry of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports, Ministry of Health and Culture, Ministry of Education, Employment and Gender Affairs, Department of Children and Family Services, Government Information Services, Health Services Authority, including Mental Health Services, Pines Retirement Home, Chamber of Commerce, Lions Club of Grand Cayman, the Sister Islands, Business and Professionals Women's Club, and an attorney at law. In summary, this policy and development of the implementation plans are in keeping with government's broad outcomes, number 12, as I said at the beginning. It must be noted that some of the anticipated benefits from the implementation of the policy and legislative reform will include older persons becoming inclusive within society. They will be able to enjoy a higher level of independence and be valued as equal, contributing, and productive members of our society. In addition, the larger society will have a better appreciation for the challenges that are being encountered by our older persons and how they are able to continue in their contribution towards the ongoing development of our society. I take this time, Madam Speaker, to extend special appreciation to the members of the Steering Committee Participants of the stakeholders workshop held on July 1, 2016. The district focus groups held during August 1st to the 5th of 2016. And the follow-up stakeholders meeting held during October 5 and 6 in Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac. Lastly, I want to thank those who laid the foundation for this policy, the members of the 2011 working group who initiated discussions and analysis of the needs of older persons in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, it is always a danger to name an individual or individuals out for efforts when it comes to group effort. But Madam Speaker, there is one particular person that I think her name needs to be mentioned and recorded in the Hansards for the sterling effort that she has made in this regard. She had worked at this before I became minister, before we took office, and she was commissioned by me after becoming minister to continue this process and to see it through to fruition. And that person is Ms. Debbie Webb Siblis. Those of you who know Debbie will know that she's a very dedicated and driven person, and she has a particular passion for this piece of work that we have laid here today. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I wish that the Hansard record our grateful thanks to her and her team for the sterling effort done. Madam Speaker, in closing, it is hoped that all members of this Honorable House will take note of this very important policy and lend our support in ensuring its implementation, as it is a framework to advance the well-being of older persons in the Cayman Islands. As a developing society, we must all work together to respect and uphold the dignity of our older persons. They are to be encouraged to live fulfilling, independent lives, remain integrated in society, and benefit from family and community care and protection. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Financial statements for the Ministry of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports. Formerly Ministry of Home and Community Affairs, 30th of June 2015, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports.
Recognize the Honourable Minister for Community Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm extremely pleased to be able to lay upon the table of this Honourable House the report and audited financial statements for the Ministry of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports for the year ended 30 June 2015.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak further to it?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Briefly, for the fiscal year ended 30 June 2015, the financial statements for the Ministry received a clean, unqualified audit opinion from the Auditor General's Office, marking the third consecutive year that the Ministry has received clean accounts. The former Ministry of Home and Community Affairs was reshuffled effective 1st January 2015, thereby reorganizing subjects and forming the now Ministry of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports. The Auditor General, without qualifying the audit opinion, included an emphasis of matter surrounding the budgetary and reporting changes that resulted from the ministry reshuffle of the Department of Sports, Youth Services Unit, and the Cayman Islands Cadet Corps that occurred mid-year January, no, that's not right, that occurred mid-year of 2015. Yeah, yes, that's what it is, the financial year. Sometimes you read these things over and you still miss. Madam Speaker, I will now give a brief overview of the financial statements being tabled today. The Ministry of Community Affairs, Youth and Sports' original approved operational budget for 2014-15 was $13,865,496. That did not include operational costs for the transfer Department of Sports, Youth Services Unit, or the Cayman Islands Cadets. The actual operational revenue totaled $15,591,058, and operational spend including the transfer departments totaled $15,201,526, resulting in a net surplus of $389,532 for the fiscal year ended 30 June 2015. As can be seen on page 6, Madam Speaker, the ministry had total assets of $19,059,062 as at 30 June, comprising of $2.4 million in cash and cash equivalents, $1.7 million in trade receivables, and $14.8 million in non-current assets. The ministry had total liabilities of $2.3 million at 30 June, comprising of $498,000 trade payables and accruals, $211,000 in employee entitlements, and $564,000 in surplus payable to core government. The ministry had total net worth of $17.8 million as at 30 June 2015. As outlined on page 7 of the report, the ministry's total revenue for the year ended 30 June was $15.6 million, comprised of the government output funding of $15.4 million, and donations and other revenue of $198,000. The ministry's total expenses of $15.2 million comprised of $11.3 million in personnel costs, $2.9 million in supplies and consumables, $910,000 in depreciation, Madam Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the ministry and all of its agencies for supporting the ministry's efforts to ensure our annual accounts are accurately prepared, presented, and tabled here in this Legislative Assembly. And Madam Speaker, I thank you for your indulgence and allowing me the privilege to lay the financial statements, and I pray that the 2016 financials will not be far behind. Thank you.
Civil Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands Annual Report, fiscal year ended 30th of June 2016, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Acting Deputy Governor.
Recognize the Deputy Governor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report of the Civil Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands as at 30th of June 2016.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Member wish to speak further to the report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I shall offer a brief explanation of the components of the annual report, and then I will speak to the specifics of the financial statements contained therein as of the 30th of June 2016. 2015-16 financial year, despite increasing challenges, was another successful year for the authority, with continued growth of the aircraft registry and sound technical and economic regulatory oversight of the Cayman Islands aviation industry. This result is a testament to prudent management of the authority's finances and critical decision-making by the authority's management, in addition to the commitment and dedication of its employees. The CAACI is one of the few statutory authorities that relies on non-coercive revenue for sustainability through the operation of its offshore aircraft register. It's a unique public service entity that competes in the global marketplace for the registration of aircraft. With competing offshore registries such as Bermuda, Isle of Man, Aruba, Malta, San Marino, Guernsey, Jersey, and so on, the CAACI finds that it is essential to offer excellent client service, a credible regulatory regime, and creative and innovative business solutions in order to maintain our market share and continue to grow the Cayman Islands aircraft registry. In addition, the CAACI faces the challenge of attracting and retaining appropriate human capital resources, as regulatory activities dictate highly specific and technically qualified and experienced staffing levels, given that safety of persons and property is paramount. While there are many factors beyond the control of the authority that could influence its financial performance, management continues its diligent approach to ensure that efficiencies and service levels are optimized through training, IT implementation and upgrades, adherence to sound regulatory standards, and appropriate staff recognition and incentives. In addition to the financial performance, which I will comment on shortly, it should be recognized that the CAACI has maintained the Governor's designation for regulatory oversight of all functional areas following successive assessments by the UK's Air Safety Support International, which is carried out as a means of assessing the ability of the CAACI to comply with the UK's international aviation obligations under the Convention on International Civil Aviation, also known as the Chicago Convention. Following on from this reporting period, the ASSI biennial assessment was carried out in December 2016. It is noteworthy to mention, Madam Speaker, that during this period, the CAACI management introduced a renewed strategic planning framework and annual report which identifies strategic objectives critical to the regulatory responsibilities with defined performance criteria, which include the following higher level objectives: a modernized approach to regulatory oversight, continuous improvement of service delivery, and an adaptable, capable, high-performing organization. A strategic priority has been the development of permanent office accommodations for the CAACI, and during this period they acquired the site of the former Cayman Airways Limited headquarters under a 99-year lease agreement with the Cayman Islands Airport Authority. The $400,000 lease payment is due in the period following this reporting period, when it is anticipated that planning permission will be granted. Ongoing efforts will focus on maintaining the market share for the Cayman Islands Aircraft Registry by finding novel and effective solutions for global clients. Madam Speaker, I will now speak to the financial statements contained in the report. The audited financial statements just tabled consists of the statement of financial position, the statement of comprehensive income, the statement of cash flows, the statement of changes in equity, and the notes to the financial statements. The CAACI's equity for the fiscal year ended the 30th of June 2016 indicate that the net assets of the organization have increased by $343,000, or 11%. This is due to an increase in assets over the increase in liabilities. The increase in total assets of $1.25 million is due to cash and customer receivables generated through the continued growth in revenue from the aircraft register. However, this impressive growth in current assets has been partially offset by a similar increase in the post-retirement pension and healthcare obligations for long-serving CAA staff of $1,092,000, which reflects the 2016 International Accounting Standards 19 actuarial valuations for each retirement plan. These actuarial valuations are commissioned and recorded in accordance with the PMFL each year. In terms of the operating activity of the CAACI during the fiscal year ended the 30th of June 2016, the following summary is pertinent. They produced total revenue of $7.45 million, with $6.1 million of that being attributable to the aircraft registry. They incurred total expenses of $4.2 million, of which $255,000 is attributable to service charges booked for post-retirement plans. These expenses are not actually incurred by the CAA, but are required to be recorded as part of operating expenses in keeping with IAS 19 requirements and the PMFL. Outside of these expenses booked for the post-retirement plans, the authority's total expenses actually decreased by $125,000 from last year. They generated an operating surplus in the amount of $3.2 million before remeasurement of the post-employment benefit obligations, which produced losses of $828,000, resulting in a total comprehensive income for the year of $2.74 million. The authority paid $2,169,000 in dividends to the Cayman Islands government during the year ended June 2016, and paid another $2,031,000 in September 2016 on total comprehensive income earned in 2016. The annual dividend payment is based on a directive from the Financial Secretary to the authority in 2011, which was further amended in 2013, which states that the authority should pay 75% of total reported comprehensive income to the Cayman Islands government as dividends within 3 months of the financial year end. Madam Speaker, the authority has consistently been paying such sums to the government on an annual basis since 2009. Madam Speaker, the Auditor General issued an unqualified opinion on the financial position of the authority as of the 30th of June 2016. and has stated that the financial statements fairly present, in all material respects, the financial position of the Civil Aviation Authority of the Cayman Islands at the 30th of June 2016. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The National Pensions General Amendment Regulations 2017 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister, Education, Employment and Gender Affairs.
Recognize the Honourable Minister responsible for employment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I ask to lay on the table of this Honourable House the National Pensions General Amendment Regulations 2017.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak to it?
Madam Speaker, as there is a government motion dealing with this, I'll reserve my remarks until that time.
Thank you.
Auditors Oversight Authority, Cayman Islands Annual Report for the year ended 30th of June 2016 to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment.
I recognize the Honourable Minister responsible for financial services.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. I rise to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2015-16 Annual Report and financial statements for the Auditors Oversight Authority for the period ending June 30th, 2016.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak to the report?
Madam Speaker, just very briefly, and in summary, I will just touch on the key financial performance and some of the operational achievements. The Statement of Financial Position of the Auditors Oversight Authority as at 30th June 2016 shows that total assets were valued at $313,688, up 33.1% from the budget amount. Liabilities were CI 18,551, up 131.9% from the budget amount. Total net worth was up 22.9% from the budgeted amount at $231,500. Madam Speaker, I would like to highlight 4 significant events that were achieved by the Auditors Oversight Authority during the period the 1st of July 2015 to 30th June 2016. The first of these events was the AOA's completion of its second round of inspections of audit firms registered with the AOA. The inspection was facilitated by the full cooperation of the audit firms and the assistance of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales. And no requirements, restrictions, or sanctions were required to be placed on either firm. The second significant event, Madam Speaker, was the application to the Financial Services Agency Certified Public Accountants Auditors Oversight Board in Japan in connection with gaining equivalency status to allow AOA to enter into an exchange of letters with the FSA/CPAAOB. It should be noted that the AOA had previously applied to the European Commission for equivalency status. An EC decision dated the 25th of July 2016 has extended our transitional status pending the collection by the EC of additional yet unspecified information from the AOA. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, the AOA filed its application to be a signatory to the International Forum of Independent Audit Regulators, IFIAR, multilateral memorandum of understanding, which will facilitate the AOA entering into one or more memoranda of understanding with other audit regulatory bodies around the world. Membership in the IFIAR is comprised as of 30th June 2016 of audit regulators from 51 countries, including the Cayman Islands. Finally, Madam Speaker, the Managing Director on behalf of the AOA attended at the IFIAR annual plenary meeting in April 2016, as well as attending at the annual IFIAR enforcement workshop, which is open to all members following the plenary meeting. AOA is a member of IFIAR's Small Regulator Working Group. Madam Speaker, the Auditor General has issued on the accounts of ending 30th June 2016 an unqualified and a report, and concluded that it presents fairly in accordance, a financial position fairly in accordance with the International Public Sector Accounting Standards. Madam Speaker, I'd just like to recognize and thank the current board and previous boards and the management and staff of the authority for a job well done. Thank you.
Cayman Islands Monetary Authority Annual Report 2015, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment.
Recognize Honourable Minister for Financial Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2014-15 Annual Report and the related audited financial statements of the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority for the period ended June 30th, 2015.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak further?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will touch on the financial performance, the summary of the financial performance, and then talk about some operational issues as well. Madam Speaker, dealing first with the financial performance, the authority's net income for the 2014-15 financial year was for 0.410 million, which was allocated to CEMA's capital expenditures, reserves, and general reserves. Total assets as at 30th June 2015 were CI 123.665 million. This amount includes currency reserves of CI 105.812 million. Total liabilities as at 30th June 2015 equaled CI 99.983 million. Total reserves were CI 21.354 million, while contributed capital remained at CI 2.328 million. Madam Speaker, the authority collected 102.67 million in fees for regulated entities on behalf of the Cayman Islands government for the 2014-15 financial year, compared to CI 106.832 million for the prior year. This decrease in collections was mainly attributable to the departure of one Class A bank from the jurisdiction, which was HSBC, and the successful relicensing of an entity under the company's management law to the trust law, resulting in the per-client company fee not being collected under the company's management law on behalf of this entity. Madam Speaker, currency in circulation as at 30th June 2015 was CI 84.3 million. This represents a 3.5% increase from the previous year's figure of 91.7 million. Currency reserve assets exceeded currency in circulation by approximately CI 21.512 million. Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to confirm that there was an unqualified opinion issued by the Auditor General in respect of the financial position of the Monetary Authority as at 30th June 2015. In terms of an industry overview, Madam Speaker, efforts continued during the financial year 2014-15 to strengthen and enhance the regulatory framework governing the financial services industry of the Cayman Islands. In terms of captive insurance, the Cayman Islands remains the second largest domicile for captive insurance companies, and the jurisdiction is the #1 domicile for healthcare captives, with 34% of Cayman captives covering healthcare risks. The jurisdiction is the #1 domicile for healthcare
captives. Something repetitive there. The total number of insurance-related licensees dropped from 926 at the end of the 13-14 fiscal year to 875 as at the end of the 14-15 fiscal year, with the bulk of the reductions seen in the international sector. This reduction, Madam Speaker, was a result of SEMA carrying out a tidying up exercise. Madam Speaker, in respect of funds, despite the decline in new fund authorizations globally, the funds industry remains very strong, very healthy, showing only a slight decrease. As at 30th June 2015, there were 11,061 total regulated funds, compared to 11,296 for the previous period. The total funds as at June 2015 includes 2,773 master funds, 7,795 registered funds, 390 administered funds, and 103 licensed funds. The Cayman Islands has been a top international location for the provision of trust services and remains so. There were 129 trust companies licensed as at 30th June 2015. Those with restricted trust licenses numbered 62, nominee trust licenses 55, and controlled subsidiaries were 44 in number. There were a total of 91 private trust companies as at June 2014, with 16 being registered during the fiscal year. In the banking sector, Madam Speaker, total international assets as at June 2015 stood at 1.39 trillion and liabilities at 1.44 trillion. Domestic assets were 20 billion and liabilities were 60 billion. As at June 2014, the jurisdiction ranked 6th internationally in terms of external cross-border assets of 1.37 trillion and 5th by external cross-border assets of 1.38 trillion. In relation to organizational developments, Madam Speaker, I'd like to emphasize or highlight the significant work that has been undertaken to improve and enhance the systems used by the authority. During the year under review, SEMA issued several measures that impacted investment funds, banking, and the insurance sectors. A rule and regulatory procedure were issued to outline criteria for a fund to cancel its registration or license with the authority to better align with, or to be better aligned with standard setters' enhanced jurisdictions. Standard setters enhanced requirements, Madam Speaker. A new rule and statement of guidance on management of credit risk and problem assets were issued for banks. The regulatory policy on banking licensing was also revised in order to enhance the authority's licensing procedures and to more closely align with international standards. The regulatory policy licensing and approving money services businesses established criteria for the licensing of money services businesses and the approval of their agents. Lastly, the measures pertaining to risk management and market conduct were updated for the insurance sector. The regulatory measures issued during the 2014-15 fiscal year are listed in Table 17 of the report, Madam Speaker. Copies of all rules, statement of guidance, and policies and procedures issued by the authority are available on SEMA's website. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, I've attempted to provide a very short summary of the authority's annual report and to highlight several key points. I would close by emphasizing the critical role that the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority plays in our financial services industry, thereby the significant impact it has on our economy. The government remains confident in the strength of the authority, and especially its ability to operate successfully in the dynamic, competitive global environment of the financial services industry. And I thank the board and management for their continuing good efforts in achieving this good result. Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
The Cayman Islands Stock Exchange Annual Report for the year ended 30th of June 2016. The Cayman Islands Stock Exchange Limited financial statements for the year ended 30th of June 2016 and independent auditor's report to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment.
Honourable Minister for Financial Services.
Madam Speaker, thank you for accommodating the laying of the request to lay both of these, which I rise to seek your permission to do.
So ordered. Does Honourable Minister wish to speak to these two reports?
Madam Speaker, what I'd like to do is simply point out that the Auditor General has issued an unqualified or clean opinion on the financial position of the Cayman Islands Stock Exchange. A dividend has been paid, declared to the Cayman Islands government for a total of CI 305,346. The Cayman Islands Stock Exchange has a current listed market value of approximately 198 billion. And 2016 certainly marked the 20th anniversary of the stock exchange, which saw an increase in securities listed exceeding 4,000. As at 30th June 2016, Madam Speaker, the stock exchange had registered 16 listing agents and 5 brokers. There were no new brokers admitted during the 15-16 year. As a direct outcome of the Cayman Islands Stock Exchange diversifying its income streams by further developing its fee-generating activities and reviewing its rules to identify appropriate policies that can be introduced to enhance competitiveness and efficiency, the Cayman Islands Stock Exchange has produced an additional administrative listing fee or penalty in relation to the late filing of net asset value data. The exchange continues to monitor issuers' compliance with the continuing obligations as set out in the listing rules and advise issuers on any post-listing matters. As usual, Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the board, management, and staff of the Cayman Islands Monetary Authority for a job well done. Thank you.
Annual Report 2015-2016, Maritime Authority of the Cayman Islands, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment.
Honourable Minister for Financial Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the 2015-16 Annual Report and related audited financial statements of the Maritime Authority for the financial year ended June 30th, 2016.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in terms of key financial information, the statement of financial position of the Monetary Authority, of the Maritime Authority, as at June 30th, 2016, shows total assets valued at CI 5.5 million, which is an increase of 8.4%. Total liabilities were CI 2.5 million, while the total net worth was down 11.6% at CI 3.1 million. In terms of operational achievements, Madam Speaker, as the Cayman Islands continues to strive towards excellence, Macy's ethos of client focus, excellence, innovation, and quality remains at the heart of everything the authority does and can be seen by its achievements during the 2015-16 year. For the 5th consecutive year, Madam Speaker, the Cayman Islands was recognized by the International Chamber of Shipping as one of the world's top 15 performing flag states. The Cayman Islands maintained the United States Coast Guard Qual Ship 21 status, which has only been extended to 16 flag states, and low-risk status in the Paris and Tokyo MOUs, with 0 detentions recorded in the Paris MOU for 2015 and 2016. Madam Speaker, the flag continues to grow in both number of vessels and gross tonnage. As at the end of 2016, the flag had a total of 2,088 vessels. There was a net increase of 36% over 2015, and there was a total of 4.83 million gross tonnage. The average age of the fleet, Madam Speaker, is 11.6 years. Madam Speaker, the vision of the Cayman Islands Shipping Registry is to be the leading maritime international administration in the provision of exceptional service to the global shipping community. In pursuit of this, Macy has been working closely with Cayman Enterprise City. In May last year, the registry, the Cayman Islands Maritime Services Park, and Maples and Calder hosted the first ever Cayman Maritime Week. The event was organized to push forward the concept of making the maritime industry an economic pillar in Cayman. It was a major highlight and was attended by local and overseas industry experts. Madam Speaker, I'd like to highlight that the Cayman Islands was also the host of the inaugural Women in Maritime Association Caribbean Conference, or WIMAC, in conjunction with the International Maritime Organization and Women in Shipping and Trade Association, or WISTA, Cayman Islands branch, in September 2016. This is a very significant event, or was a very significant event, as the Cayman Islands is not a direct member of the IMO. The UK holds the IMO seat. It is a testament to the authorities' willingness and cooperation in positioning the Cayman Islands as a leading jurisdiction in the global shipping community. Madam Speaker, during the 2015-16 year, Macy also maintained its International Organization for Standardization, or ISO 9001 certification, through the British Standards Institution. In this period, preparations began for Macy to make the transition from the 2008 standard to the new 2015 standard. This is an extremely positive move for Macy. Not only will accreditation certification to ISO 9001:2015 recognize Macy's commitment to internationally recognized best management practices, the new standard is also closely aligned to Macy's vision and objective for organizational management. Madam Speaker, another major focus during this period was the continued updating of the merchant shipping law and related regulations. In addition, amendments were successfully implemented to the gambling law, which now allows passenger ships to operate casinos whilst in international waters. This removed a major barrier to cruise passenger ships flagging into the Cayman Islands. Further, draft regulations have been prepared to give effect to the Nairobi International Convention on the Removal of Wrecks. The convention provides the legal basis for states to remove or have removed shipwrecks that may have the potential to adversely affect the safety of lives, goods, and property at sea, as well as, importantly, the marine environment. The regulations were formally approved in Cabinet in Q3 of 2016 and are expected to be commenced before the end of this quarter in 2017. Extension of this convention to Cayman will offer significant financial security to the Cayman Islands government in the event of a serious wreck occurring in our waters. The extension will also result in a significant new revenue stream for MACI through the issue of wreck convention certificates. This revenue is expected, Madam Speaker, to exceed CI 200,000 per annum. Madam Speaker, in respect of the financial statements and the Auditor General's opinion, the accounts of the Maritime Authority as of 30th June 2016 have been qualified by the Acting Auditor General. The basis for the qualification is that the authority could not recognize the estimated cost related to future obligations under its post-retirement healthcare plan, as no actuarial valuation was completed. Madam Speaker, I'd like to mention that an actuarial valuation was completed in June 2016, and at the time of the presentation of the financial statements, the board, the authority's board and management were in the process of evaluating the report. Madam Speaker, in conclusion, I must recognize and thank the chairman and the board of directors, as well as the management and staff of the Maritime Authority of the Cayman Islands for a job well done. And it would certainly be remiss of me if I did not also mention the continuing support and cooperation of our ship owners, yacht managers, other global partners, and the local private sector for their valuable contributions via the Cayman Islands Ship Owners Advisory Council, its associated Yacht Committee, and the local Maritime Sector Consultative Committee. With this genuine and broad-based collaboration, this authority and registry, or without that, rather, this authority and registry would not be the successful global leader that it is today. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Ministry of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment, Cayman Islands Government. Fiscal 2015-16 Annual Report, 1st of July 2015 to the 30th of June 2016, to be laid on the table by the Honourable Minister of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment.
Honourable Minister for Financial Services.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to lay on the table of this Honourable House the annual report and audited financial statements of the Ministry of Financial Services, Commerce and Environment for the year ended 30th June 2016.
So ordered. Does the Honourable Minister wish to speak to this report as well?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in terms of the annual report, I'm very pleased to present that on behalf of the Ministry. This report certainly goes beyond just the financial statements and provides details into the activities and accomplishments for the 2015-16 financial year. The work of this ministry, Madam Speaker, has a major impact on our economy, and this report provides a summary of that impact. In 2015, Madam Speaker, an estimated 41% of Cayman's GDP, as well as 9% of overall employment, was generated by the financial and insurance industries. The legal and accounting professions together added a further 10.7% to Cayman's GDP and 6.6% to employment. Now, obviously, Madam Speaker, it was broken out that way, but certainly that takes it to effectively 50% of Cayman's GDP and around 17% of employment. Madam Speaker, the work that goes into these high-level numbers is significant and beyond what can be shown effectively in financial statements. For instance, the annual report lists the 33 laws and regulations that were dealt with over the course of the year. It outlines our international engagement that supports the success and growth of our local industries, and it describes the environmental conservation efforts that support other industries and our way of life in these islands. Permit me, Madam Speaker, to mention a few of the more significant ones during the 2015-16 year. Madam Speaker, the Limited Liability Companies Law was well received by the financial services industry globally because of its ability to appeal to a broad range of financial services sector service providers. And the New Accountants Law modernized the regulation of this profession to maintain international standards. The Department of Environment and the National Conservation Council continued work on the development of guidance notes and directives to aid the full commencement of the National Conservation Law. Several changes to the licensing legislation occurred during this financial year, Madam Speaker, notably the commencement of the Trade and Business Licensing and Second-Hand Dealers Law and the Film Exhibition Control Law. Collectively, the legislation ushered in improvements to the way in which business operating locally are licensed and the standards within which they operate. In a major step forward, Madam Speaker, Cayman enacted the Copyright Cayman Islands Order 2015 on 30th June 2016. This order, which extends UK copyright legislation to the Cayman Islands, replaces the 1966 order, and in so doing offers broader copyright protection to creators such as musicians, songwriters, visual artists, and writers. With these changes to the intellectual property regime, Madam Speaker, the Cayman Islands Intellectual Property Office was launched to support Cayman's strengthened intellectual property laws. In addition, Madam Speaker, there were several significant developments in support of Cayman's competitive position as an international financial center and strengthening our international reputation. In February 2016, following recognition from the UK that Cayman's existing system was a valid alternative to a public central register for beneficial ownership information, the Ministry hosted representatives from the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office and the National Crime Agency to discuss further enhancements to Cayman's beneficial ownership information regime. Through direct international engagement with European lawmakers on Cayman's regulatory regime and its economic model, we were able to disseminate facts and correct misinterpretations about financial services in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, these are only a few of the key achievements for the 2015-16 period. Madam Speaker, in terms of the financial statements, the statement of financial performance will show that the total revenue earned by the Ministry was CI 11.92 million. Total expenses were 11.15 million during the 2015-16 financial year, and the surplus for the period was CI 0.77 million. The Ministry ended the 2015-16 financial year with CI 36.3 million in total assets, CI 28.1 million in total liabilities, and a total net worth of CI 8.2 million. Madam Speaker, the statement of cash flows shows that the net cash flows from operating activities of the Ministry totaled CI 1.18 million in the 15-16 financial year. Cash and cash equivalents of the Ministry as at 30th June 2016 was CI 23.8 million. Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to say that the Auditor General issued an unqualified or clean opinion on the financial statements of the Ministry for the year ended 30th June 2016. And I would certainly like to thank my colleagues in the Ministry led by the Chief Officer for an excellent job done during that period. Thank you.
Questions, honourable ministers and members of the Cabinet?
None.
Statements by honourable members and ministers of the Cabinet?
None.
Personal explanations?
None.
Obituary and other ceremonial speeches?
None.
Raising a matter of privileges?
None.
Bills. Second readings. The Criminal Records Spent Conviction Bill.
Recognized Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I rise on what I consider a matter of grave importance, if you will allow.
Could you state the matter, please?
Yesterday, Madam Speaker, there was an attempt to bring private members' motion to the forefront, or to the front of the agenda, barring 3 items. That was not successful. The motion in question has hit the front page and the airwaves and the internet and the community. That motion is caused by the entrance of the Legal Practitioners Bill. The subject matter, that is the motion, accuses the minister responsible for the bill. So the motion, Madam Speaker, is predicated or precognition of the LPB. So, Madam Speaker, I believe that this is a grave, grave matter, and I suggest that the LPB, which is item 33, be brought forward on the agenda to item 1. Once, if the government agrees, then they would suspend and go into a committee in camera of the 18 of us and go into that bill and deliberate thereon, hopefully coming to an agreement between us all of what is best for all. That, Madam Speaker, I believe would go a long way in dealing with what, and if people think it's not grave, well, we'll wait and see. But what I consider a matter of grave importance.
Recognize the Honourable Premier. Before I recognize you, let me just, out of clarity, are you seeking to, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, to bring it as a motion to change the order of the business paper from 33 to 1? I'm just seeking clarity, because if it is, then I'm going to ask for a second.
Madam Speaker, I was trying to do it without such formality, but if the chair suggests it. Yes.
Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am grateful to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for making his proposal. He and I actually discussed this in the dining room. Madam Speaker, the position of the government is this: if members of the opposition are prepared to sit with us and discuss the Legal Practitioners Bill to see if we can reach agreement on the matters that are of concern to them still, the government is more than happy to accept that approach. Madam Speaker, I've discussed this with the Minister of Financial Services, who has conduct of the bill. And our suggestion is that we could take Monday coming. We can take the whole day if we need to and discuss the legal practitioners bill in camera, or if that date is not suitable to members of the opposition, the first day that we return following my trip to London, which would be the 8th of March, the government is more than happy to accommodate that as well. The Minister of Financial Services is not in a position today to be able to deal fully with the issues because the committee stage amendments which are being proposed have not been completed, but they will be completed by Monday. So my proposal is that we continue with the business on the order paper. We take Monday and we discuss the legal practitioners bill, and we see where we go from there, whether we return to the House then and deal with the legal practitioners bill, or whether we revert to the agenda as it is presently set out.
So one minute, Member from Easton, are you saying, Honourable Premier, that the business committee will meet to rearrange the order paper so that the legal practitioners bill is the first thing on Monday?
No, Madam Speaker, I'm simply saying that we take Monday as the House and simply sit in camera and have a discussion about the bill, not troubling the order paper for the time being, and we see where we get to with respect to that. Today we will continue with the order paper until the conclusion of the day.
Honourable Member from Easton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have listened quite intently. Madam Speaker, I don't see any amendments. We have 33 pages of amendments proposed to this bill. 33 pages. Over 100 clauses which was submitted to this Honorable House. I do not see the value, or we do not see the value, in going, first of all, going in camera. This is stuff that must be now aired publicly. And if a committee of the whole House is suggested, agreed upon, it must be in public where witnesses can be called. We are not prepared to go into camera with any committee at this stage. The time for that is now over. Besides, Madam Speaker, there is a motion which is of grave concern as well and importance that should be debated prior to the legal practitioners bill. I didn't hear any terms such as those when we are now talking about going and killing the initiative that we have now had to go through after the bill was proposed and the minister saying that he had done discussions behind closed doors, as the papers reported, Madam Speaker. Now we want to do behind closed doors again. That is not the way, in my view, to do this. Why now? Why not then, when we were beseeching the government to do something about it and to do committee on this bill of the whole House? This was proposed a long time ago. A long time ago we asked for that very thing. where we can sit in these hallowed chambers, discuss this matter, call witnesses such as lawyers and other professions to assist us with coming up with a viable law. I am not afraid, Madam Speaker, nor any member here is afraid to debate this law, nor put on the table the amendments in the best interest of making this law what we believe is going to be for the people of this country. The time has come not to go into no in camera, Madam Speaker.
Fifth elected member from Georgetown, and then after that I'll conclude the debate because it's quite obvious that there's no consensus for it. We'll move on to the next item of business.
Madam Speaker, as the seconder to this bill, I find it very I find it very convenient now to say that the matter is so grave that we need to meet when we have asked and we've put ourselves forward to just do that long before this came to this House. But, Madam Speaker, if we're going to go to committee stage, definitely wouldn't be in camera. Or select committee, sorry, Madam Speaker. Right? Because we need to be able to hear witnesses on this matter, not just from the government. Because a number of young Caymanian lawyers have made representations to the opposition members. They have made representations to the government. To this date, their concerns have been overlooked. And we need debate on the topic to show all sides, not just the Cayman Islands Law Society and the Caymanian Bar Association. Madam Speaker, the first elected member from West Bay is right. This is a grave matter of national importance, and we need to air it so the nation can hear it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, let me state quite clearly, this was on my part after I read the motion and after I read and after what took place yesterday and the many calls and pressures from all around, I should say, from both sides, and after, in particular, the airing of this matter on the front page of the paper, it is of grave significance to this country for more reasons when it goes beyond the legal practitioners bill. It affects the entire financial services of this country. And, Madam Speaker, I don't think that the member from East End, I don't think the member from East End meant that I was trying to kill the initiative, because I am not. I wanted the government to sit, because I have not had that opportunity, in a select committee. It's a long, drawn-out process. And the House is going to be prorogued on the 28th. And I just don't see the time to get into that, but I know we have time to sit down informally where we can talk. And I said in camera, because that way it gives us a lot of freedom to move back and forward. But in select committee and in a committee of the whole House, we are restrained by orders. And so I find it more easier to sit down where I can palaver with the government and you can get your points across, perhaps even in more robust terms than you could in a formal committee. Be ye sure to understand one and all, I am not scared of a debate. But I say that what I see on this, what I see in the motion, and I understand members' eagerness because of the neglect over so many years. And I know this, Madam Speaker, because some of the people, Madam Speaker, that this affects, who even give in certain talking publicly and saying they want it, they come to your house with a cap on in a car that nobody identifies because they don't want to be identified. So it is a very problematic thing, and I think the government, I'm sure the government understands that from both sides, Madam Speaker, Caymanians who should be up for some kind of promotion, and also those who owns the companies because they're owned by somebody. And so we understand that. But I believe that I can get something better than what the bill is. And I don't know, I haven't seen these amendments. And I'm waiting to see what the amendments are. And just for the record, when somebody puts an amendment in, it's no sense in me putting one in if somebody got one in. But already we've heard there's 33 pages affecting 100 clauses or 100 clauses, over 100 clauses, and the government is preparing. I don't think even that we got that Monday can do it or we can wait this. Well, let me just say it. If members don't want to, then they don't want to. But I would not, if I was government, I would try to move in on this now because, as I said, it's not just the legal practitioner bill. This motion accuses the minister who is responsible for the bill. And I think that needs to be dealt with fast and efficient and clear the air. I made my case, Madam Speaker. I appreciate the attempt to the government, but I would move on it now.
Thank you.
Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm not going to get into any provocative debate about it. The government has agreed with the leader of the opposition that we will are prepared to have an informal discussion with members to see if we can reach some level of agreement on the provisions of the bill. It's been made clear by the alternative opposition that that is not their position. They're not willing to do so. And I will just leave it there. This bill has been out and circulated. There have been dozens of public meetings about the issue. There are no secrets in it. So I am regretful that members do not wish that approach, but the government can but offer. Madam Speaker, as I say, I don't want to get into a provocative debate about this because there's going to be lots of that to come.
Madam Clerk, let's move on to the next item of business.
Second readings, the Criminal Record Spent Conviction Bill 2017.
Recognize the Honorable Minister responsible for bringing this. Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to move the second reading of a bill shortly entitled the Criminal Record Spent Convictions Amendment Bill 2017.
The bill has been duly moved. Does the Honorable Mover wish to speak thereto?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, members will recall that late last year, the last meeting of the House actually passed the Criminal Record Spent Conviction Bill 2016. This amendment bill, Madam Speaker, seeks to do a couple of things. Clause 2 of the bill makes provision for a caution administered under the Cautions Adult Law 2017 and the Youth Justice Law 2015 to be treated as a conviction for the purpose of the Criminal Record Spent Convictions Law 2016. Clause 3 repeals Section 15 and provides in the substituted Section 15 that where a person has been convicted of an offense and has been sentenced for a period not exceeding 5 years, upon the expiration of the prescribed crime-free period, that person's criminal record shall be treated as expunged, that is, automatic expungement. It further provides in the new section 15A that where a person has been convicted of an offense and has been sentenced for a period exceeding 5 years, upon the expiration of the prescribed crime-free period, that person may apply to the board for that person's criminal record to be expunged. Such application shall be in the prescribed manner and accompanied by the prescribed fee. And finally, Clause 4 amends Schedule 3 to make provision for the inclusion of cautions and the applicable crime-free period of 3 years in relation to an adult and 1.5 years in relation to a juvenile. Now, Madam Speaker, Clause 2, which I referred to earlier, will be the subject of a committee stage amendment to reflect the decision we've taken to treat cautions quite separately under the cautions adult law quite separately from the criminal records spent convictions law. So when we get to committee stage, that clause will have to be amended in accordance with the discussion that we had in this Honorable House previously. And so, Madam Speaker, with those few explanatory words, I ask the House to support the amending bill.
Does any other member wish to speak? Recognize the honorable member from East End.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wonder, before I start my contribution to this, if the Premier would wish to say, Madam Speaker, the Premier agreed, and the Attorney General, I think, a few days ago, that I think it was on Wednesday, that we would look at, as a consequence of the caution law, we would look at some amendments to this to remove some of that and make a very name. And the cautions amendments are here, but I don't see the accompanying amendments for the spent conviction. The subsequent amendments, as a result of the caution amendment, as a result of the are they to come? Oh, okay. If they are being prepared, because I would have thought that both would have come the caution because they are companion amendments. Madam Speaker, this morning we circulated the caution ones. Let me get it straight. So the ones that would reflect. Okay. All right. Madam Speaker, I certainly would want to lend my support to this amendment bill. I think we are all pleased that the government has seen should I say maybe the mistake that we made when the criminal record spent convictions bill was proposed and then turned into law, which was that we wanted automatic expungement as well. And I'm glad to see that they have seen the error of their ways. And I'm always kind. But to see it, to appreciate what we were saying a little as early as they did. Madam Speaker, I now ask the government to explain the absolute need for that council now, the board, because it's certainly somewhat truncated. I know the other offenses, such as the category A's, I believe, will still be required for them to. But it's much less work. I believe there was a prescribed time for them to meet. As well, Madam Speaker. And anyway, I shall leave that up to someone else to work out the finer details of that. Yes, Madam Speaker. The expungement board, its composition, but I believe there was a period for them to meet. But I'll leave that up to someone else to deal with that. Madam Speaker, the Premier quite rightly said that and agreed that, for the want of a better phrase, that cross-subsidization, so to speak, was not a good thing, where you had the cautions and then you would be putting it under the criminal conviction, the criminal record spent conviction law. I hope the intent is, because he didn't say that he didn't say that Section 4 was going to be removed. He did say that they were going to set up a records, which the amendments for the caution is proposing. I trust that all reference to the cautions will be removed from this criminal records spent conviction bill at committee stage, and that the register for cautions will stand alone and stand on its own, so that we don't criminalize young adults. And I believe that we can support it with those amendments being made. And I should say, Madam Speaker, that the other concern that I have with it here is that I recall many years ago we were asked here, since my tenure, by the Attorney General to approve an amendment. Was it the matrimonial law? One of those, evidence law, or one of them, on domestic abuse, that we should, what the problem for prosecution was that they were experiencing that the victim would not come forward. At the time, Madam Speaker, I was somewhat reluctant to give it my support because of the nature of domestic violence. But I was assured that they would force the victim or consider the victim a hostile witness. I don't know how well that is working, Madam Speaker, because I've heard of many instances where the victim does not turn up or decides that they do not want to press charges any longer, and it falls by the wayside. I trust that we are not stepping in to similar here, a similar situation here, even though I suggested 3 to 6 months that it be taken off, it be expunged, removed from the record. So I don't want to be one to be proposing something that is not going to work, like that one hasn't worked. So, Madam Speaker, and I expect that we will look at this quite critically before we do all the amendments. And I should say too, Madam Speaker, that one of the things that, and I know I shouldn't revive, Madam Speaker, but because the caution is here, what is mentioned here, there was agreement, I also believe, to increase or change the schedule in the cautions. I should note that there is no proposal to change that schedule by virtue of increase or deletion. So I would ask the government to also inquire into that possibility before we get to committee stage. And the promise that was made by the Attorney General to increase or change, because he did say that he did not see a problem with that and understood why we were proposing that. So, Madam Speaker, with those few words, I can lend my support, subject to the committee stage amendments that will look at this from a more holistic perspective. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? The fourth elected member from the District of Bordentown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just real quickly to add my support to the bill as well, considering that a lot of the concerns raised with the cautions have been addressed or will be addressed through committee stage amendments. And just to make the point clear that I am now in a position that I can support this bill, because the biggest concern for me was actually having a caution placed on a police record, which I thought would have been a huge impediment to someone who was seeking work or looking to travel and so forth. So now that that is being addressed, I have no issues with supporting this bill. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? Final call. Does any other member wish to speak? If not, I'll call on him over if he wishes to exercise the right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm grateful to members on the other side for their support of the bill. I am delighted, Madam Speaker, that on a rethink, the fourth elected member for Bordentown is able to support not just this bill, but as I understand it, the cautions adult law with the proposed committee stage amendments. It is always good to have consensus in this House. It's rare, but it's good to have it. Madam Speaker, to the point by the member from East End, about whether or not we need an expungement board given the proposed amendment, which will make expungement automatic in many instances. The board is still necessary with respect to those more serious offenses for which the crime-free period is longer and which requires an assessment by the expungement board as to whether or not those convictions become expunged. And so, Madam Speaker, again to the other point, there is committee stage amendment to the criminal record spent convictions amendment bill will be circulated as soon as they are prepared as well, which will coordinate with the changes that are proposed to the cautions adult bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is that a bill shortly entitled the Criminal Record Spent Conviction Bill 2017 be given a second reading. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, no. The ayes have it. Accordingly, the Criminal Record Spent Conviction Bill 2017 has been given a second reading. We'll now break for the luncheon break and reconvene at 2:15 p.m.